The Constitution of the United States, the very essence of who we are as a nation. It's under attack tonight. An attack launched by the left, desperate for a political opportunity to reshape the world as they want the world to be, not how it is, but as they want it to be, because, you know, they're not operating here on planet Earth. They have this idea of a utopian universe, and they think they can somehow get us there. Beto O'Rourke, a rising star of the left right now, suggesting our Constitution might need to be reworked for the new era in which we live. So I have a little warning for Beto, and I cite what I consider to be a pretty good case study in political science, Venezuela. It's the reason we keep doing it on the show. Now, tonight, on the eve of the people's plan to take back their country, I just want to remind you that Venezuela once had a politician who insisted on tearing up his country's constitution himself, and his name was Hugo Chavez. I mentioned this earlier. I was just starting my career. At the time, I was working as an analyst in the fixed income division at Goldman Sachs here in New York on the emerging debt markets desk. And we traded Venezuelan sovereign debt and PDVSA debt back in the days when the country actually paid its bills. Chavez came to power, and the first thing he did was tear up the Constitution. He consolidated power. He got rid of the different branches of government, and he very quickly began to, quote, unquote, reform the country. He stole land from the people, saying it wasn't properly utilized. Kind of reminds me of what New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is saying these days. He wants to take distressed buildings away from landowners. But guess what? Well, some of Chavez's newfound government land did actually go to the poor. Most of it went to friends and family and colleagues, all his cronies. You see, you know what? You can legislate a utopian existence all you want, but you cannot get rid of basic human instincts, some of which, you know, aren't that good. In a utopian world, you don't have any greed. It doesn't exist. But in the real world, you see, it does. So the key, as our founding fathers so brilliantly articulated, the key is to protect us, in a way, from ourselves. We have a great republic. You know, it may not always be perfect. It may not always be fair, but we have those checks and balances for a reason. We have the best system in the world. Let's keep it that way. Here with me to react to all of this, presidential historian Doug Wead. Doug, it's amazing, right? You know, you've got people that are actually talking very seriously about, well, maybe we need to redo this Constitution because, you know, our founding fathers didn't, I get it, our founding fathers didn't anticipate that we'd have a television that we'd be talking to, you know, you through a lens with. They didn't anticipate a lot of things, but you know what? They really understood the heart, I think, of what our existence would be well into the future. And they understood that you need to guard against yourself sometimes with all those checks and balances. Is it not a dangerous thing to tear up the U.S. Constitution?
It's dangerous. You know, Beto O'Rourke said it's the question of the moment. Those were his words.
It's not a question. Shouldn't ever be a question, but go on, sir.
And the question of the moment, he says, is does it work? I think the question of the moment is in 1787 when Benjamin Franklin came out of Constitution Hall and someone said, Dr. Franklin, did you get us monarchy or a republic? And Benjamin Franklin said, a republic, sir, if you can keep it. That was the question he asked in 1787, and it may be the question we're going to have to ask ourselves in 2020. Can we keep it, or are we going to lose it?
Well, if we lose it, what's at stake?
Well, you know, the socialism, I think, that would come upon us today would not be quite the socialism of Denmark or the socialism of Venezuela. I suspect it would be a crony socialism, just like there's crony capitalism. It would be socialism for you and me and most of us, but it would be empowerment and advantage for a tiny few. I think Beto O'Rourke...
That is, by the way, the socialism of Venezuela and for Cuba. If you're in power,
that's
if you're friends with Maduro, right, you're living quite well. And maybe you're involved in some bad things, as we have learned, including the drug trade, but you're doing okay, right? You're protected, and you're part of the protected class. So I'd include Venezuela in that group. And Denmark, dare I go into Denmark, because they'll jump all over me. Denmark gets very sensitive about these things. Denmark is not quite the socialist country that Venezuela is. I would never compare it quite to Venezuela. They do have a lot of capitalist procedures in place, too. But even there, they have challenges as well. Again, there's this thing called human instinct. And look, I don't like it, but it's there, right? And greed actually is part of our DNA. And when you try and say, I'm creating a utopian universe, and we're not going to allow that feeling, that basic instinct that humans have, Doug, I don't think you can do it. I think you wind up with other kinds of problems, as we've seen over and over and over again.
Yeah, the best testimony for socialism are the people who live under socialism. And in the Soviet Union, there was a very famous joke that went everywhere. And it's the commissary speaking to the students. And he says, comrades, there's good news and bad news. The good news is someday even the great United States of America will become a socialist country. The bad news is when that happens, there won't be any place left on earth for us to buy grain. So even the socialists know it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I sure hope we don't go that direction. Anyway, Doug, it's good to see you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you,
All right,
Trish.
coming up, everyone, it's a story we've been following closely.